Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. It falls to me, first of all, to just say a few words of thanks to all those who have helped put this marvellous day together. Of course, our amateur but highly successful impresario Basil Feldman and his backstage, who has gathered such a galaxy of stars from all walks of life, and his backstage manager, Harvey Thomas. I really wanted to thank all our guests by name, but the list is too long, so I must run the risk of picking and choosing. But I know you would want me above all to thank Bob Markenhaus and Jimmy Tarbuck, who've done so much. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Bob. But then, if I may indulge myself just a little in some special personal thanks. Above all, to our cricketers. I'm fond of them. And I say our cricketers, not just John and Bill, but Clive Lloyd as well, as one of the world's great cricketers. I'm glad he's on our side on Thursday. I wish it had happened before, Clive. We could have done with you once or twice. Now, as a man who enjoys watching cricket as much as I enjoy clean bowling Mr. Hattersley or hitting Kinnock for 6, thank you for your support. And then, if I may say so, my personal thanks too to Ronnie Corbett. Just, Ronnie, because you always make me laugh so much. And then to Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels, this is a surprise, I know. He has had a key role in this campaign. When the militants and the unions disappeared from the papers and television, we wondered if Paul had been working for the other side. But he's not. He's working for us, and he's vanished the alliance vote already, and see what he does to Labour on... And now can I just say to you all, what a pleasure and indeed a privilege to welcome you in your thousands here today. It's a celebration, and we've already got something to celebrate. 8 years of Conservative government. Eight years in which economic success has been restored to this country, and something more. Tim Rice put his finger on it. Pride and respect across the world. You know how it is now when you travel abroad, whether it's in Australia, whether it's France, they say, if only we had an Australian or a French Mrs. Thatcher. Or even in Italy, imagine an Italian Mrs. Thatcher. But is anybody in Germany saying we wish we'd got a German Mr. Kinnock? Or in America, an American Mr. Kinnock? Nowhere in the world. Well, I've never been to Albania, so I don't know. And now we're getting ready for the last few days of our campaign to put Margaret Thatcher back in Downing Street and a Conservative government. A Conservative government in place for another 5 years. We called this a family rally because that's what our politics are about, the family. Conservatives stand for the family, united. United in good times or in bad. Times are good, and under the next Conservative government, they are going to get better. Today here we're having a good time. And at Central Office, we've had a good campaign. But the campaign isn't over yet. In these last vital days, there must be no sitting back, nor any slackening of resolve. Our workers in the constituencies and at the centre have spared no effort to ensure success. And I know that you'll go back to your constituencies after this rally to work with renewed vigour, so that on Friday we'll have something more to celebrate, the beginning of the next 5 years. You will have been inspired by the words of the Prime Minister, who's been travelling the length and breadth of the land, spearheading our campaign to carry the Conservative message, not least of our economic success. But because we are not materialists, nor just Philistines, but because it is only through the success of our economy that we can look forward to a future in which we can continue to afford to care. We know that effective caring costs money. We know that it's only with the Conservative government that Britain will earn the wealth needed to pay for that care. And we know that our opponents would pursue policies so reckless or feckless that they would wreck the economy, and in doing so would wreck those caring services for the retired, the sick, the handicapped, and the less well-off in our land. That's what this election is about. But this is a great occasion for a great party, for a country that's been made great again by a Conservative government headed by our Prime Minister.
Mr. Chairman, fellow Conservatives, I know that the Chairman has already thanked our very distinguished guests who've come here to be with us today. I'd like to add my personal thanks to you for all the trouble some of you have taken, especially to be with us on this rather important day, to say what an inspiration it is and how much it means to me personally. Thank you very much. And of course, what you'll really want to know is whether I'm Janet Brown or not. I hope you might reach a conclusion by the end of the speech. Now, this is the third time that I've come to Wembley on the Sunday before polling day. And each time, 4 days later, we won. And in the presence of great cricketers, I ask, shall we go for the hat trick? Yes, I thought you might say that, and I hope we'll hit the opponents for 6 while we're at it. And I must say, it lifts the heart to hear the Wembley roar. The cup final crowd aren't half bad at it, but I wouldn't be surprised if your voices carried all the way to the Kremlin. And by the way, Dennis tells me that the music for that song you sang a little while ago was a signature tune for Dad's Army. Well, I don't know about Dad's Army, but I'm a mum, and I'd like to think that those who believe in keeping Britain strong, free, and properly defended belong in Mum's army. And next Thursday, when the people go to the polls, I believe Mum's army will include thousands of traditional Labour supporters, mums and dads and sons and daughters from all over this beloved land of ours who just can't stomach the defence policy, or rather the no defence policy, of today's Labour Party and its present leaders. Mr. Chairman, if planes, tanks and nuclear weapons could be stopped by moving a composite motion at a Labour conference, there might be a grain of sense in the Labour leaders' grand strategy. But they can't, and there isn't. Mr. Chairman, after 8 years, there is a new spirit of confidence in Britain, both at home and a new respect for Britain abroad. And there's a lot to be confident about. Industry and commerce are thriving. New businesses are springing up, making and selling goods which hadn't even been invented 8 years ago, and creating new jobs, more than 1 million new jobs since the last election, more than in the rest of Europe put together. That's Britain's record. And unemployment is coming down. It's been falling steadily for the last 10 months. What welcome news that is for us all. And we hope and we believe that it will continue to fall in the coming months. And yes, business is making good profits. And that's healthy, because that's how companies build their future. And during this campaign, the economic good news has continued to roll in. The CBI reports that orders are flowing into Britain's factories from home and abroad. More houses are being built for sale than at any time since 1973. Our overseas trade is in healthy surplus. Britain's reserves were up last month by $4 billion, the biggest monthly increase ever. And foreign investors have said, Conservative Britain, that's where it's at. That's the place to go. Mr. Chairman, how the Labour Party hates all this success. As the economic news gets better and better, so Mr. Hattersley's face gets longer and longer and longer. Now, how has all this success been achieved? Because it's been done by government and people together. This government runs the finances of the nation soundly, like any good housekeeper. Not for us, the reckless promises that can't be delivered. We know that everyone has to live within a budget. Housewife, businessman, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and to pretend otherwise is thoroughly dishonest. We Conservatives believe in honest money. We've brought inflation down and we want it down further. And people who save for the future have a right to expect that their savings will be secure. And this government is making sure that they are. And yes, we introduced tax incentives right across the board. We cut red tape. We cut controls, believing in the spirit of enterprise that made our country great. And men and women in industry, in commerce, in the entertainment world, in the sporting world, they all responded, creating a higher standard of living for their families and more wealth and lustre for Britain. And remember, as Norman pointed out, you can't improve the health and social services as we have until you have first created the prosperity to sustain them. That, Mr. Chairman, is real care. But as we all know, this transformation could not have come about unless we'd reformed the law on trade unions. Before that, ordinary people were frightened of their union bosses. They were frightened of what militant shop stewards would order them to do. And they were often frightened to speak up at all. This government has removed that fear. Our trade union reforms have brought democracy to union members, given them power over their working lives. The Labour Party would take that away, and they would bring back secondary picketing, knowing full well the intimidation and the violence that goes with it. And they say they care. How can anyone who wants to do that possibly care about industry or the people in it. It is to Conservatives that ordinary members of trade unions look for their democratic rights, and they may continue to look safely. Yes, government and people together, that is the real answer. And we have together achieved a great deal over the last 8 years. And today, you can share in the prosperity of the economy and of your own company. Because to Labour's fury, millions of people have bought shares in privatized industries like British Telecom. Like British Telecom, British Airways, British Gas, and in TSB, and there's more to come. Because this shareholding is part of your investment in the future of Britain. And as well as that, it's what we all want. It's security for you and your family. And shareholding is more widely spread than ever before, up threefold since 1979. Yes, the spread of ownership of housing and shares under this government is creating a nation of families with means of their own and a stake in the future. It is these reforms, the wider spread of ownership of all kinds, which are uniting our country, fulfilling the Tory dream of one nation. It is our dream, it is our philosophy, it is our program that what were once the privileges of the few should become the daily experience of the many. And now it's really happening. Conservatives want you to have what you want. Labour wants you to have what they want. Again, the Labour government would take back these gains. They want to turn workers against owners. We are turning workers into owners. Mr. Chairman, this is a family audience, and so I want to say something to you about law and order. Yes, this government has increased the numbers of police, and yes, we will increase them still further. There are more bobbies on the beat. But crime is not a matter for the police alone. It never was. It can destroy neighborhoods and make people's lives a misery. The police need support from all of us. Yet all too often, they find themselves up against not only the criminals, but the hostility of some local authorities. It's not conservative local authorities who behave in this fashion. It's not conservative local authorities who try to prevent the police from visiting schools and talking to the children. And it's not Conservative local authorities who spend ratepayers' money on anti-police propaganda. Mr. Chairman, the enemies of the British Bobby are the enemies of liberty itself. Labour want to bring the police under political control. What kind of party have they become? The British police are the limbs of the law. They must never become the strong arms of political parties. They serve only the rule of law. They need our support. They deserve our trust, and they can depend on Conservatives for both. And on defence, the people can depend on we Conservatives. It was Dennis Healey who, as usual, gave Labour's game away. He told us that the Kremlin are praying for a Labour victory. Well, who could blame them? Think what a lot of trouble it would save them. They would see Britain's independent nuclear deterrent surrendered, and they wouldn't have to give up a single nuclear weapon themselves, not one. They would see our American allies, and true allies they are. They would see our American allies told to remove all their nuclear weapons and bases from Britain, while the Kremlin would keep all theirs in Eastern Europe. NATO's strategy and cohesion would be fatally weakened, while the Soviet defenses would remain intact. Oh yes, Labour's policy would be the answer to the Kremlin's prayers. The truth is that Labour's policies would take us a giant step towards a neutral Britain, increasingly under the shadow of Soviet military might. The leader of the Labour Party even talks about occupation. Occupation! Occupation of Britain after winning 2 world wars without a... Occupation of Britain after winning 2 world wars without a single enemy soldier on British soil. We Conservatives will never take risks with Britain's security. We know that nuclear weapons have kept the peace in Europe for 40 years, and they have prevented not only nuclear war, but conventional war as well. It was Winston Churchill who understood the danger of weakness and appeasement more than anyone else. He warned, and I use his words, "Be careful above all things not to let go of the atomic weapon until you are sure, and more than sure, that other means of preserving peace are in your hands." Mr. Chairman, a strong defense policy is the only peace policy. And I believe that the people know that our policies offer the best hope for peace and security. Peace with freedom and justice. I believe they know that Britain's defences are safe only in Conservative hands. Mr. Chairman, people want to live in peace, real, lasting peace. The industrial peace that enables them to earn a living without fear of victimization or being called out on strike against their will and without a ballot. The peace of mind that comes from knowing they can walk the streets safely and know there is a policeman on the beat. The peace that comes from independence of the state and being able to run your own life, spend your own money, and make your own choices. And above all, the peace of a country which is properly defended against any potential adversary. For ours is a country with a past to be proud of, and under the Conservatives, it will be a country with a future to be proud of.